Well, often we think about our children as being, little people, little problems, right? But when it comes to being afraid or wanting to quit something or learning how to control our tempers, these are big issues. These are as big for our children as, finances and taxes and medical issues that we deal with as adults. Well, my next author has written a series of books. It's really life-changing for your children. There's amazing moral stories woven in there. Sarah Tucker, we are so glad to welcome you today.
Oh, thank you so much for having me. I really am very excited to be here.
Well, I feel like your books are very different because you're empowering children to take
Mhm.
control of their mind through encouragement and through storytelling with real life situations they're dealing with.
Yes, ma'am, I am. We have all different types of issues that kids are going through, especially in today's world.
Mm,
They're afraid. They want to quit. They want to give up when things get hard.
yeah.
And they have hard choices to make. They're trying to figure out if getting out of trouble means they can lie and get out of trouble, or if they should be
Mm,
honest and find out that they're not going to get in trouble because they were truthful.
right. Right. And Sarah, why did you write these books? The ones we're focusing on today are the Mom's Choice Award winners, which we want to talk about. But what specifically is it about these three that have commonality?
These three, I believe we earned the Mom Choice Awards on these three because they are so powerful.
Yeah.
And they help kids on so many different levels. On what should I do? They're learning to think through their problem solving. They're learning to be able to communicate with their parents in the correct way.
Mm,
On the I'm not afraid story, they're learning to find out what fear really is. Is it
mm,
real fear that is you're terrified, or is it you're terrified because it's all built up in your head?
right.
And on false expectations and appearing real. On our I Quit book, that is all about overcoming anger and jealousy and learning that just because you don't get it right the first time
Right.
and you don't win all the time doesn't mean you give up.
Yeah.
So this one helps children breathe through a temper tantrum.
Hmm.
This one helps them they're overcoming their anger because they have jealousy issues against a friend, not getting what they want or
Sure.
winning. Um, I really these 2 actually are my favorite books
Yeah.
for that purpose.
We're talking about children, but as you're describing wanting to quit, jealousy, there's a lot that these parents who might be reading to the children are picking up as well. We can
Yeah.
all apply this stuff to our lives. I guess we're all dealing with the same stuff in a
Yeah,
lot of
there's
ways.
a lot of, parenting tips that go involved with these children's books, and there's also, teacher guides at the end of I Quit and What Should I Do to continue the conversation with your children or
Oh,
students.
wow. You do this in such an entertaining way. It's not just sit down, read the book. There's so much more interaction and it's inspiring action.
Mhm.
And that's so different about your series and all your books. What prompted you to do that? What made you take it the extra steps?
Well, we own a martial arts school, my husband and I do.
Okay.
And so I developed this entire character development program, which the children's books are based off of.
Mm.
And so I've had lots of testing with
Yes.
thousands of children, and I saw what worked and what didn't work. And we wrote about it. And then the children read the books and they go, well, maybe I shouldn't quit. I'll try again.
Mm,
And then they try again. And then they try again. And then they finally accomplish or win a game and their confidence soar. So
mm,
I know that with these actions with I Quit, this is based off of real children, and the children overcome their anger issues. They overcome the jealousy of not winning at everything, and they win eventually, and they're just so much happier for it because I allowed them to fail and get back up,
mm.
which is so powerful. And
Yes.
And for what should I do? It's the same thing. Kids have a hard time with making the right choices sometimes because 'cause they're afraid they're gonna get in trouble.
Sure.
But after reading this book, I've had many reports from parents that children are going to them and saying, "I did wrong. Can you help me fix it?"
I wanna confess. I wanna
Mhm.
tell you before you find out, I just wanna be
Exactly.
honest.
Yes.
That's a tremendous message, and it does really build character, and these lessons are gonna continue into adulthood of
Mhm.
not going to their parents, but going to their bosses and saying, "Look, gotta fess up. Messed
Yes.
up. Here we go.
Yes.
What are we gonna do?" I wanna back up to something you said. You talked about these are based on real children. I mean, having a martial arts school, you have real children that you're working with. Are any of these stories based on actual children that you know?
Yes, actually. All
Well,
of
let's
them.
talk about all of them. How does that work?
All of these well, it works by me just I'm surrounded by 80 children almost every single day,
Wow.
80 plus, for the
Wow.
last, since 1998. So,
Okay.
I've had thousands of kids in and out of my life. So, I've been able to step back and watch these children grow up from 3.5 to about, college years, now married and have children of their own.
Wow.
So these books are based off of real kids and different personalities.
Yeah.
I know that we've talked in the past about I've had people ask me, "Well, why aren't you using real kids in your books?" And I told you that it was about personalities, not nationalities. And I
Yes.
want kids to be able to relate to these characters because they get to see themselves in them.
Yeah.
They may be shy, like Harry, or have an overactive imagination. They may be a little competitive and rude like Ringo. It happens. They may be a little wise, like Ricky the rabbit, and they may be the best friend that you'll ever have like Curly Bear. And so there is different personality types all through this, male and female, that are
Yeah.
based off of children that I've worked with. And so each story is based off a different incident that has happened
Yeah.
throughout these years. From I Quit was based off an actual dodgeball game of a little girl quitting and having a meltdown and
Mhm.
learning that it's okay to fail and get back up and do it
Yeah.
again. What Should I Do is actually based off a little boy who found one of those little game switches in the bathroom, and he walked off with it because nobody claimed it, because
Mhm.
he thought, "Yeah, they didn't care about it, so I
Fair.
picked."
Mhm.
But he felt so guilty,
Mhm.
and he was crying in the car on the way back. It just whatever I said to him earlier that day really made a a hole in his heart, and he brought it back and apologized for taking it. He punished himself. I was just like, "Oh my gosh." And I didn't
Wow.
need to punish him. He didn't need to be
A
punished, and
forever lesson.
yeah, he just needed
Yeah.
to learn that what he did was wrong,
Yeah.
but what he did in correcting it was right. He was honest about it and he returned it. I'm Not Afraid is actually based off a whole bunch of kids when we had sleepovers at our martial arts school. We had a whole bunch of different sleepovers and activities and fun, but some kids are afraid to stay over or
Sure.
spend the night. They're afraid of the dark, they're afraid of monsters. And so this was based off of a lesson that my husband taught the kids about false expectations appearing real. And so
Mhm.
everything is based off of real life situations and children. Mm.
Sarah, it's not just the words that you're using, it's not just the stories and the actions that you're calling the kids to take, it's the illustrations. These are so entertaining and beautiful. I'd like to bring your illustrator in right now, if that's okay.
Oh, yes, please do. You're gonna absolutely love Adam. He is amazing.
All right, we're gonna talk to Adam right now. Adam, I'm glad that you're here. What an important part of these books and this specific series we're discussing today. How did you come up with I mean, they're so vibrant and engaging. How did you come up with the illustrations and the imagination behind this?
The idea for the look of the books was Sarah and I both have a background in entertainment outside of the literary. It's television, and that kind of stuff. And the idea was how they should look like cartoons. They should look like something these kids already are drawn to on, say, like Nickelodeon or something like that. So the ideas that originally were done, the drawings originally were done for a 2D animation. And I
Right.
had created these characters, updating them from what Sarah had created years ago, into a 2D, much more streamlined, modern look using various elements and ideas so it fit in the same category of like in between the Disney and Looney Tunes and something
Okay.
you'd see on Nickelodeon. Um, and that was the visual cues where the backgrounds look a little more painterly, where the characters are hard lines, and they have this cartoon look to them. So it's like
Mhm.
you could see them moving on screen. I mean, I try to
Okay.
put movement in every image I do, so there's nothing static. Nobody's just standing there like this. They're always, their
Okay.
hands are up, something's always
Oh,
moving.
very interesting. Subconscious, the very, what am I trying to say? You don't even realize that they're in action. It's something that
Yes.
you don't point out and you go, "Oh, every character is in action." It's automatic movement. You don't even realize. I love that.
Yeah, and it's just a little, because I mean, we always, even I mean, little kids especially, kids. There's a bounce, there's a
Sure.
movement, there's something going on. So even if it's subtle, where it's just an arm is up, no
Yeah.
one's ever standing there in a static pose. I try not to, unless
Yeah.
they're supposed to be standing at attention.
Yeah. And you're meeting them where they're at. They're comfortable seeing this type of cartoon character. So there's more of a warmth and an automatic, again, it's subconscious. They're
Yes,
already comfortable with this type of character and they feel a warmth and almost a friendship instantly, visually.
yes.
I love
They have to
that.
be brought in, and I use my own children, or I was, as they've now gotten a little too old for the book series,
Sure.
but they were my sounding board when we first started to say, okay, there was a toss up between Sarah and I. It was, okay, Sarah, I want to do this, or she'd write something down. I'm like, I could draw that. You don't need to write it. It doesn't need to be written. Let me have them do the action without you having to describe it. And we would back and forth on this. And I would then have my children look, and I'd be like, can you tell what's going on?
Right.
And when they would tell me, if they could come right out and say, oh, yeah, without, because I didn't let them read it, I would let them just look at the image.
Right.
And my
Right.
son and my daughter would tell me, yeah, okay, daddy, he's doing this, he's doing that. I was like, okay, so you get it. So I've got the point across.
I don't
And that was how
I love that. Well, I want to ask you, you're dealing with things like fear and quitting, and these are big things for our kids.
yes,
And that's a very different mindset than, a character going to the park and getting an ice cream and everything is wonderful. Where's your mindset when you're sitting down to illustrate this type of storyline? Are you feeling extra sensitive? What do you have to keep in mind with the
I
mood of
have to
these
keep the
books?
emotions. I have to keep the emotional look on the kid. I mean, sometimes it's difficult because I mean they are a 2D cartoon character, and they I'm Not Afraid was one that I had to. How scary can I make their imaginations? Which that's a whole different
Mm.
aspect, because the book series, the
Oh, wow.
imaginations, whenever the characters go into their imaginations, the book changes. When you're
Mhm.
in Harry's world, it's a cartoon and it looks
Right.
like an animated cartoon. When you go into their whatever, it doesn't matter whose imagination it is, the imagination becomes a comic book complete with word balloons and all the other stuff,
Right.
but it's completely drawn differently. There's a
Mm.
lot more animation, everything's stretched and drawn more like a comic book. And in
Wow.
the aspect of I'm not afraid, it's how scary can I go before we lose the 4 or 5 year old kid because they
Sure.
don't want to go any further. And that's where my kids came in. I was like, is this too scary? Both of my children were like, no, daddy, that's not scary enough. And I was like, okay, in what should I do? The fear on Harry's face had to come across without being scary. It had to be, I
Right.
mean, this had to be, I mean, and that was where I drew on my own kids. Because my
Right.
son was
Right.
infamous for when he did something wrong, I knew because I could see it in his face. And
Yeah.
I
Yeah.
had to portray that. And that was probably my favorite book, or my favorite book to not only illustrate, but it is my favorite of the stories, just because I got to have a lot of fun with the imagination scenes in that book. Where Harry goes,
Yeah.
And I remember Sarah and I talking about that book because of the imagination stuff and because of the storyline on it.
Yeah.
That we both came, I mean, she had come to me and she said, "Do you realize that any book that deals with this, they always lie first and then apologize?" And we went back through and I'm like, you know what? My kids have books where the same kind of situations happen and
Yeah.
the character will lie, get themselves in trouble by lying.
Yeah.
And it's like, she's like, we're going to do this different. And I had to put Harry in situations where he's literally arguing with himself. Should I lie? Should I not?
Wow.
And I thought it was great. I was like, oh, okay. Yeah, we got to
That's
put this because you never saw that. You never saw
right.
the internal struggle for a little kid, and they have them too.
That is really, really interesting. Well, I got to wrap up with you. I want to come back to Sarah real quick, but I just want to say I think the ultimate compliment is, Adam, to be able to look at illustrations like you have, not realize the depth of what has gone into it, and just enjoy it and feel what it is that you're laying down just automatically, but just not realizing the painstaking thought that's behind illustrations
Oh,
like this. It's just a wonderful job. Thank you for bringing it to
thank
life.
you. Thank you.
Thank you.
That's a huge compliment. Thank you very much.
Well, good. Thank you. Sarah, it's been such a joy talking to you. And I hope so much that people will consider, looking at these books, giving you a review, because I know that goes a long way. Please share with us not just where the books are available, but how to interact with you.
Oh, well, anybody can reach me at my website. It's adventuresofharryandfriends.com.
Okay.
I'm also on Instagram at Sarah Beliza Tucker. I'm on Facebook as author Sarah Beliza Tucker. And those are our fan pages for Harry and Friends and all our other books that we also write.
Yeah.
Um, but if they go to adventuresofharryandfriends.com, they can connect with me right away by just clicking the button saying, "Hey, I want to talk." And I'll be like, "All right, hi."
I love it. Sarah, thank you so much for sharing with us. We will be in touch again, and congratulations on your amazing, well deserved awards.
Thank you so, so much.